5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Can you believe it? It's the 5th of February already, 2025. Isn't it great? Hey, welcome to Morning Hair with Matt Logan. I am said person. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. And what it is about just crawling out of bed and being real, man. Being real, being relevant. Probably at least 95% of the things that I've talked about on the show thus far has been a very specific thing that people have asked me to talk about because, frankly, they've been sort of sick of what mainstream media is doing and these different things that different outlets are just pushing. And so that's what we're trying to do here is just have an open-minded conversation with each other. So good morning. Hey, so confirmation bias, echo chambers, mass formation. Oh, it's pretty crazy. So let me give you an example. Yesterday, I talked about how I was basically just going to, if you're not open to a good faith, solution-driven conversation, and I don't mean faith in religion, I mean just that you're open to a conversation and that you're willing to look at things from different angles. And if you're not willing to do that, I'm just going to have to block you. I've never really taken that stance before. However, it's time to do that, unfortunately, because it seems to be that there's just massive repetitiveness. Yeah, it's got to be a word. I just made it up if it's not. Anyway, that repetitiveness with certain people and certain types of people is really sad. But and let me give you this example. So I had literally multiple messages, and I'll just summarize them in this. Good, you shouldn't talk to Republicans anymore. Good, you shouldn't talk to Democrats anymore. It's not at all what I said. It's not at all what I meant. That's closed-minded completely. I'm going to fight. I'm going to fight evil and what I believe evil looks like completely. I'm against that. People are like, you're against everything. No, I'm not against anything other than evil. And it is definable. It truly is. And one of the definitions that you can say is that sort of an evil tendency, I suppose, would be that that closed-minded way of thinking. There are certain people that just want to have their own way, and that this is the only way in society to be and live, and that's just not true. There are things that I don't like, most certainly, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist, and that's not a potential way of life. So I'll move on to this. Mass formation. We saw a lot of what I would say would be mass formation during COVID, just short few years back. Masks, which let's just leave it at masks, right? So masks, Fauci himself later came out and said, there was really no science behind the mask. There was no science behind the 6 feet and wearing a mask and all that kind of stuff. Well, they said it, and then they forced everybody to conform to that. And like it or not, I mean, we're going to talk about science, and then we're going to get into mass formation. And I want you to keep an open mind on this really seriously. The essential birth of science is you could even say synonymous with open-mindedness, right? Science itself was a way of thinking to banish dogmas and to banish where you couldn't question the beliefs or the question of what this or that was. It was multiple minds coming together and saying, well, what about this angle? Well, what about over here? And what about up there and down there? And that was what it was. And I think we've seen that science has been very connected to money. in the last certainly few years, 5 years, most definitely. I think we can see that. So that is kind of where I want to start with mass formation, because mass formation is essentially, it's been broken down into a few different things. And one is that, like, you can call them conditions or whatever, but one of the signs of mass formation is it can be generalized as loneliness. It can be generalized as even social isolation, a lack of bonds amongst the population. So and then the second basic condition of it would be a lack of meaning in life. And the third one would be the widespread presence of free-floating anxiety and psychological unease within a population. And then a fourth condition would be that a lot of free-floating frustration and aggression. And so that would be the catalyst, I suppose, is the best way to say it, for mass formation, the ability to then attach to something that some leader is saying. And I mean, look, people are saying that, MAGA mass formation, and people are saying that Blue Anon mass formation, and all these different things. But these are some of the catalysts: that social isolation and they just a lack of social bonds among the population, the general population. One of the big ones is lack of meaning, as I said, and these things that you are just primed and a catalyst for being part of that mass formation kind of thought process, a group think. It can also be defined. And if you're just thinking as a group, you have this like one leader, and people say it's Trump, but people also can say that it's Obama, and people can also say that it's, back in the day was Bill Clinton or George Bush. And when I say back in the day, I mean when I was younger and things. But you can go back and look at these things and whatever. But here's where I think here's my opinion on mass formation. I think that if I'm saying this 100%, I need to make this extremely clear to you, please. I will have good faith, solution-driven conversations with anybody. If you're going to, like this says, if you're going to have free-floating frustration and aggression towards me on things that you don't like, that's not a good faith, solution-driven conversation. If you're going to be a basement dweller, as a lot of people have called, and it goes on both the right and the left side of the political aisle or religious aisle or whatever. But if you're going to have that basement dwelling, lack of meaning in life kind of mentality, and push that aggression, that is not a good faith, solution driven conversation. That is what I mean about blocking people, that I'm just not going to have those conversations. And this is the topper. And I'm going to end today with this one. If you think that you cannot be manipulated into thinking a certain way or into buying a certain thing or whatever, that is a massive sign that you can be involved in mass formation or group think type thing. I'm going to say that again. If you think you cannot be manipulated into those things, you are the problem. I can be manipulated into things. I have a very analytical brain, and so I really want to look at numbers and things like that. But you can show numbers from the left, and you can show numbers from the right, and you can show numbers from upside down and right side up, and it gets very confusing and difficult to analyze those things. But when you filter it all out, you can absolutely see the raw numbers and the raw data and make decisions on that. But I can be manipulated. I absolutely can. I try really hard not to, but I want to make this super clear. If you think you can't, if you think you cannot be manipulated, you are wrong and you are the problem. And that is just the way I see it. That is my opinion. There are multiple ways to do things, and doesn't mean I like the multiple ways of doing things. That's not what I mean. I don't like all the ways that things can be done. I really don't. However, I understand that they are there, and I understand that we need to have conversations based on that and find the common ground rather than the common battlefield. I'll see you tomorrow morning.
So it's done.
It's done.